being here.
All right, we have Councilor Davis.
Mayor, help me, I just need to understand, are we just having a general discussion on this matter, or did we come here to make some decisions tonight?
Hold on. Yep, Mr.
Well,
City Manager.
Well, this, this is, I think, maybe the third or fourth, just an update. We're wrestling with where currently we're doing 89 hours. We have
Okay.
money to do 45 hours. And we've been doing 89 hours since July 1 on a budget for 45 hours.
I understand that.
And so we want to constantly update and talk about the transition, and we were actually going to bring something tonight for you to vote on, but I think you gave us good direction when you said get with the Hurricanes, get with the high schools, get with the other swim teams and organizations, and that's what Dr. Worsley has done. And although we've had an opportunity to get with them, he has, and meet with them, we still have money for 45 hours, and we're operating 89, and that's why, I said earlier that certainly we like the idea of the task force. We can get together rather quickly, and we'll come back in the second Tuesday of January with an update, but we're operating 89 hours in a fiscal year where we have money for 45, and we don't have the update tonight as to where we are financially
Okay.
and whether that money is going to run out the first quarter, and that's what we're going to come back and talk about, and we'll share that information with the group, and so we're just talking right now, trying to get some direction, and we are getting good direction, and we'll come back the first of the year and have more information as to where we think we can go from here.
Okay, I was a little concerned. I think a lot of folks out here were really concerned that we were about to cut hours tonight.
Well,
And-
it's not on the agenda for a vote.
Well, that's what I want to make sure, because I think a lot of people came here tonight thinking that we were about to make a decision, and we're not. Now, it's my understanding, based on what we talked about a minute ago, there's money in the budget to run it all the way to July, or until we pass a new budget.
And that's what we're going to answer when I come back in
Okay.
January. We're
Okay.
89 hours on a 45-hour
All right,
budget.
I'm going to walk through this a little bit. So it would take, if you're coming to ask us to make a change, whether to continue at 89 hours
We're not-
or whatever it may be, that would take, essentially, if we did that tonight, that would take an amendment to the budget. Am I right?
If you were going to do 89, our recommendation, if we were coming with a recommendation tonight, it would be to operate for 45 hours, and then you would need to determine, unless you're going to give us more money, and you would need to determine whether you want that 45 hours to be done by Parks and Rec or a private company. And so it's 45 hours unless you give us 89-hour money. We can only recommend based on the budget.
I understand that, but it would take, Mr. City Attorney, it would take an amendment to the budget. And when would be that date that the money runs out for
Well,
89 hours?
And that's what we're going to tell you in January, pardon?
That's what he doesn't know.
So you're going to tell us later?
Yeah, unless you change it. But we will have that detail for you, Counselor.
Okay.
At the second Tuesday in January, we will tell you, based on Parks and Rec operating 89 hours year to date, where we are, and based on the spending trend per month, how many more months we can go in this fiscal year with the money that's
And
left.
at that point,
if
you
we
would
continue
ask
to do the
us,
same thing.
you would ask us either to adopt your recommendation or amend the budget. Am I right? I'm trying to get out there a little bit because people are going to ask me.
We
where we're going with this.
we could ask you to accept the outside vendor, inside vendor, go to 45 hours, or we could ask you, we will let you know in advance that, if you don't amend the budget, there's going to be a budget overrun.
Or if by chance, if some additional funding came in, make it happen.
Absolutely.
Okay.
It's all about money, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
One last question, Dr. Worsley, and I'm finished. You put in your presentation here, and I want to understand this. I'm a firm believer that the only way that the natatorium, the aquatic center, is going to function at full capacity and reach its full potential is that we really have a combined full-scale effort on a sales and marketing plan. We just got to have that, and we're missing that. We're just falling short of the mark on that. I think everybody understands that and would agree. But when you talk about marketing here in your proposal, explain to me what your thoughts are on marketing. What does that include?
Absolutely, glad to. When we talk about marketing, and let me preface this with marketing with the dollars that we have in our budget, because if I had the dollars of the private sector or at whim, just a blank check, we could do a lot of damage in terms of marketing. But with the limited dollars that we have when it comes to marketing, first of all, we're going to use our free resources that we have here in the city. First of all, CCG TV. We've used CCG TV before in terms of marketing. We use our local radio station partners in marketing, which doesn't cost us most of the time any money. We use the old-fashioned way, flyers. We also use social media when it comes to marketing, our website when it comes to marketing. Those are the things. Now, can we go and afford to buy a billboard and pay for it on a monthly basis? No, those are some of the marketing ventures that we don't have money to use at this point in time. So, yes, I understand what you're saying in terms of the information you have. Our marketing plan is slim or skim, if you would want to say, in terms to someone that had a healthy budget for a marketing proposal.
Mr. City Manager, the committee that looked at Company A here, what were they offering in the form of marketing?
In terms of marketing, some of those very similar things. Getting their marketing budget was a little bit healthier. They did mention things like advertising in the community in terms of the billboards, having the marketing person, which we don't have, to be able to go out in the community, go to businesses. Those are things we would love to do. I would love to be able to have a marketing coordinator to go to the PT office.
Did they say they were going to put a full-time marketer on this?
They have let's see what person they have. They may determine in terms of that person, but they talked about it in terms of that's what they would do in terms of one of the personnel that they would use. Those are some of the things that they would be doing in terms of their marketing strategies. So, yes, sir. And, of course, just like us, they're
Well, I think
using social media
that
as
would
well.
probably be a topic of discussion with the task force to really look at that and analyze that piece of it. Because, again, I go back to, I just think sometimes, I don't know how other people feel about this, but I feel like without that key component of it, we're just going to be spinning our wheels and we'll be right back just feeding the machine to keep it going. We're going to have a coordinated effort to get revenue, to have revenue coming in. So I hope everybody understands that.
All right. Absolutely, I think so. And we have this one good announcement of the big swim meet coming, and I think that's wonderful work with the Sports Council, and hopefully that at least
Absolutely.
can be further nurtured. Councilor Barnes.
I have to laugh sometime. I've been a civilian for a number of years, but my years in the military, I learned a lot of skills. I mean, it was what we all did. And when you're faced with a situation, you're taught, make a decision, come up with a plan, and execute. Am I lying? Right. So now, one of the things we've already done, I think it's a consensus of decision here. We don't want anything but 89 hours. That's one. So that's one. So that's done. So now let's get on with the plan, and that's everyone here. The holidays is not going to be. They want to volunteer and give valuable input to the plan to make the plan operate, because they want the plan to operate. They're going to come up with a lot of good ideas. Then we execute. We're getting wrapped around the wheel, and it's good. I'm glad y'all. We're getting wrapped around the wheel. Let's get to the nitty gritty. The decision's been made. We want 89 hours. We'll come up with a plan. We'll glean all the experience here and with all of us, and we'll make it happen. So I think we can, with that, I think we can, because we're going round and round and round. You understand? The decision's been made. We want 89 hours. So we just now, the next step, come up with a plan. And they will give their input, and we'll give our input as far as money, and we will make it happen. It's just that simple.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Mr. City Manager and Dr. Mosley, when you come up with your task force, one of the things they need to make sure they keep up front and look at is Tom Black. This was one of the brainchilds of Tom Black, who worked for the Bradley Turner Foundation, I think. And it was a result of one of our inner city visits. I think it was when we went to Indianapolis. The natatorium was. So make sure they keep that up front. When they start looking at some possible sponsorships, we need to use what we have in this community. And Tom was real in favor of the natatorium.
All right, thank you. We have Councilor Woodson.
I just want to piggyback first on what the Mayor Pro Tem is saying. There were several, you need to get with the Chamber of Commerce so you could see who all went on that trip, because those were the individuals that convinced this council that it was very needed and it could be used and it could be profitable. And they're the ones that could probably help with the financial part of it. We were texting each other and we were trying to figure out, but Mr. Black was one of the spearheads before it, so you really need to go to him. Secondly, I just wanted to tell a family member, he's no longer with us. Well, the chamber will give you who else was, because it was a bunch of people. It wasn't just him. But he was the one pushing it so much with council and the chamber to make sure that we added when we were doing the 4 pools. I'm pretty sure that Tiny can pull up some minutes and the chamber can give you some contact numbers too on that. Secondly, I just wanted to tell everyone that thank you for your emails. I respond to a couple of them, but not that many because there's so many of them. But I did read them, I did see them, and I understand. We went through a lot of round talking a lot of things, so I just want to bring it real to everybody. Everybody wants this, but the problem is the same thing as it is in your home, is money. The bottom line is Parks and Rec is here to tell us with this update that they're running out of money. If a task force is wonderful, but that task force has to have people that have money that's ready to write the check right then and there. Because if we don't hurry up and do that, I don't care what we say on this council, next year, I don't know, it could be in March, it could be in April, it could be in May, they can be standing before us and tell us we have no money, close the door. So today is not about whether we're going to cut hours or not. Today is to let everybody know we got a serious problem. We got to do some fundraisers. We got to convince those people we know that have money that this is a good project, that they need to put it there. We need to find out people that are donors that were once in the Olympics and lived in Columbus and willing to put their money in it. That is the bottom line. Everyone wants it, but the bottom line is, Dr. Worsley said it, he doesn't have a budget just for that. The budget combines all the pools. So in order for this to keep going, he's going to have to stop the other pools when it gets closer to it. So I understand the excitement on it, but this is real. This is you just don't be all excited today and go home and wait till the mid-January or so forth. You really got to get it going now, because all he's doing is telling us we're running out of money, and he only has 2 choices. One, cut the hours or go to your budget and have less days in the reserve and give him the difference he needs to carry him to next year. That's the bottom line. And I just want everybody to make sure. I have friends, I have family members that use it. I have friends that their children compete. We all want it. But the bottom line is, he's just coming to tell us it's getting close to where he can't afford to do it. And that's the bottom line tonight. And I don't want to be negative, but we keep going around in circles, and that's all it is. We want it? Hey, put it on your own budget. Give them $100. Give them $200. Do fundraisers like you do car washes, whatever. Get with people that you know that have money. Tell them they need it, and bring the money in. The young folks have a lot of great ideas. They know how to do it. They can have their pool parties with their friends and rent the place out. Get your parents to put out some money. The idea is that the money has to come. That's just the bottom line. And what it looks like here, it looks like if someone else runs it, you'll be able to have what it needs to run. That's what it looks like. And that's the tough decision we have to make, next year, the beginning of next year, so that we can assure that it's there to service the people. And I'll tell you what, by what you're saying to me and what you're saying now, if I had a chance to vote right now, I would vote that an RFP go out, because I would like to see that place keep going, and I don't want to see you standing up here telling me you're going to have to close it down because you ran out of money. And that's all I'm going to say with that is just, it's all, a young man was over there looking at me and going like this. And, he's young and he got it. All that talking was about nothing. The bottom line is this, the money. And I want to say thank you to you, because I saw you.
Okay. All right, thank you. Well, I think a lot's been accomplished tonight. It appears we have a consensus for a directive to come back with a plan for 89 hours, and we will get right on that. So thank you all so much for your participation and your support, and we will be calling you very, very soon. Thank you. Thank you, James.
Thank you.
All right, we have, next we have a transition audit by John Redmond, the internal auditor, and we're going to ask John to please come forward and present that audit.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Okay. Exhausted. Oh, no. Okay, we'll give them time to exit.
Okay, John, I think you can give it a shot.
Okay. Good evening, Mayor, members of council, Mr. Manager, Mr. Attorney. Tonight I'd like to present the final report on the transition audit of the Community Reinvestment Department. This audit was authorized back in June 9th by the council following request by Deputy City Manager Hodge, and was also endorsed by City Manager Isaiah Hughley. We thank you for your approval thereof. The background history, I want to just give you a little bit of background on this thing, if I might. Yep, hang on.
We've been provided a written report, is that right, John?
Yes, you should have written reports. Okay. You should have a 9-page, I think, written report. The city, let's move on to the next one. City qualifies as an entitlement community as determined by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. Each year, they make an allotment that's available to the city through various programs designed to improve housing and reduce homelessness. Some of these are home improvement type loans, some of them are to build housing, some of it is down payment assistance programs, and then some of it is to combat homelessness in the community. But all of it basically centers around improving the homes in the community. Community Reinvestment is the entity of the city responsible for administering these programs and its funding. Community Reinvestment applies for funding for programs that support the city's master plan and that meet HUD criteria. The programs and funding requests must be approved prior to application for funding by City Council. So each time there is one, the head of that agency comes forth to you for your approval. You may recall you had an approval process you did back in August. Programs may be administered either in-house or contracted with an approved agency, such as a Community Housing Development Organization, or CHODO, or some other contractor that has become qualified with HUD. Each program includes a funding component for both administration and the work project. This is real important, so keep that in mind as I'll come back to it. The administrative component varies by program type, ranging from about 5% to roughly 20% based on the required involvement throughout the length of the project, from determining participant eligibility, the application process, monitoring, and conclusion. Community Reinvestment has really been in a state of transition for about the past 10 years. During that time, there have been 6 leaders: Lynette Gross, Joe Riddle, Mark McCollum, Amy Carbajal, David Arrington, and Laura McCool. Staffing in that period of time has been reduced from 12 FTEs to 4. It's interesting that we've had so many cutbacks in that area because even though some projects have changed in the rules and the way they operate, but the workload and the funding allotment are very similar to the way they have been. And really, there's not a lot of difference in the amount of allotment that's been available to the city. You also have to keep in mind that even when a project is terminated and HUD replaces it with a new one, that those projects that are being terminated must continue to be monitored and closed as project participation expires. So if someone has a 15-year loan, for example, and they do away with the program at the end of 5 years, that doesn't mean you just shut that down. It means somebody has to continue to accept those payments and process it through and inspect it. There are inspections, there's verifications, because most of them require that they be owner occupied. In fact, virtually all of them do. You can't use a down payment assistance loan to buy a rental property, so it has to continue to be owner occupied during that time. And that requires a lot of monitoring and coordination, site visits. To give you an example of the audit scope, our transition audits occur to benchmark the state of a department or entity when management changes, to ensure a smooth handoff of assets and responsibilities, and to assess the status of ongoing work projects in compliance with program requirements. We also have to evaluate the resources for successful continuity of the function. In this particular audit, because it's very program-oriented, we had to review each program, and that was accomplished with a review of the case files for the participants in each program, interviews with the staff member that administers the program, a review of the annual plan for consistency, and then also we looked at past HUD evaluations. HUD sends in their own auditors about every 3 to 5 years, roughly on average about 4, to evaluate how you're doing with each program and to make sure that you're doing it in compliance with their regulations. We also looked at the funding utilization efficiency, and here we looked at a couple of things. We looked at whether or not they were actually able to place all the funds in the programs that were selected during that period of time, and also whether they divided it properly between the administrative component and the project component. We looked at compliance with program requirements, including contractor compliance, and the allocation of funding between the project and administration. And I look back over the HUD audit findings for the ones that were done in the 2008 through 2010 and 11 range, which reflected high scores with minimal deficiencies and virtually no findings. Then I looked at the report from our recent ones that were done in 2014 and 15, which reflected numerous deficiencies and several findings. Reports from HUD noted that the community reinvestment was staffing challenged. That basically means they don't have enough people to get the job done correctly or in compliance with the regulations. The findings, of course, require a rapid response by management of a corrective action plan to remedy the finding. And you generally have 30 to 60 days to get those your responses in, and then they have to evaluate them and determine whether they're acceptable. The internal audit findings were the program files were well documented at the application stage on the front end of each process and at the conclusion stage, which usually involves a deed cancellation or the cancellation of a debt instrument. But the problem was at the monitoring and inspection stages, which occur in the middle of it, if you will. You can kind of think of a sandwich. You got two pieces of bread, and in between it you usually have some meat and some lettuce and maybe some pickles and condiments. Well, this sandwich turned out to be more of a bread sandwich than it did a full sandwich. And, you know, I always like to use that analogy, but it really was very sparse in the middle. And the reality was that the people that were administering the program just flat did not have enough time to do it all, and they were trying to place the money because that's how you get paid. That's how you pay for the projects that help the people in the community, improve the community's overall housing situation, but it's also how the city gets paid their administrative component. That brings me to the next part. In recent years, the administrative component was not retained to fund the administrative staff, as it should have been and was in previous years, but was more used to fund either additional projects within the program or in some cases all the funding was not expended. So that accounts for some of the staffing reduction. Now, we've had some hard years budget-wise during the Great Recession, and every department's had to make some sacrifices, and certainly community reinvestment made some of those. But the staffing reductions in this function far exceeded what was necessary to meet the reduced budgets, because rarely was the budget reduction more than about 5% or so in a given year. In some years it was 2%. So much of it was attributable to not capturing the administrative funding. So we keep that in mind. Staffing reductions eliminated middle management and professional positions, diminishing internal controls afforded by adequate separation of duties. And here I want to touch on that. We talk about internal controls virtually every time I come up here, but internal controls is what keeps things where it needs to be. Make sure that things happen according to the way it's supposed to, that money is not misappropriated or mismanaged. And what we had before we reduced the staffing was we had a finance person in there that actually administered the financial component of it. We also had a compliance officer that really looked over the compliance to make sure that each of the programs were being done correctly by the persons that did the administration. As we cut back staff, what we ended up with was the person that was running the program was also handling their own finances for that particular program, and they were also attempting to do the compliance piece. Now, there was nothing that was found that would indicate any dishonesty or fraud or malfeasance. I don't want to imply that at all. But when the controls are not in place and you don't have a separate person doing the checking, if the person that's building the car is the one that checks it, they may pass it off as a car that runs if we were building cars, but we're not. In this case, that's why a lot of that in the middle was lacking. I will say, and I want to commend our management team that selected Laura McCool for the position last year. They did an excellent job in finding someone that had the background and the experience necessary to do it, that had relationship with the people at HUD as well as with the state departments that work with us as well and help with that management process. She's proven to be an excellent hire, in my opinion. During the course of the audit, management proactively identified two significant concerns during the audit. And I want to give credit where credit's due. One, Laura actually noticed that there was some unused funding from several of the previous years that was about to expire. She found this back in the summer. And she was able to find ways to properly expend that within the guidelines of the program and enable those monies to be spent locally rather than being reallocated by HUD to other communities. Because if you don't spend your allocation in a given year, they give you a period of time following that of several years, but if you don't do it during that time, they'll take the money back and reallocate your money to some other community. It may be Macon, Georgia, or it may be Birmingham, Alabama, or it may be Stockton, California, but they reallocate it if you don't use it within your time limits. So Laura was able to find some projects working with her staff and with Pam, and they were able to get this money put out. And y'all may recall that she came before you in August, and you allocated about $700,000 to $750,000 at that time, which completed all those monies that were available from that time. This allowed also for the capture of administrative fees on those unspent funds. Now, management noted also that a major contractor had not been recertified, which could have caused significant harm to the city and to the contractor. Again, Ms. McCool got involved with that, and the issue was quickly resolved with a collaborative effort with the party. And this was with our Chodo Naval Works. And it seems that there was a change several years ago as the state began to cut back employees. They quit doing the annual recertifications directly with the qualified agencies, and it slipped through somewhere during the time, I guess, when we had some of our interim personnel, and then we only had one in between that was actually employed in that capacity. But nevertheless, they went several years without being recertified, and HUD could have really come down and slammed us hard. They could have made us repay every penny that was paid out to that agency because they weren't certified. Fortunately, they didn't do it. Ms. McCool got this corrected, working with the agency involved. But we're real pleased that that was able to be resolved, because that could have been a major financial boondoggle. Another thing that we found, and Ms. McCool has some staff working on this, is that community reinvestment files of city-owned properties did not contain all the needed information necessary to distinguish between properties of use to the city and those that were no longer needed and could be sold. Sale of such properties could provide cash flow to fund more urgent needs or reserves. The recommendations: management needs to develop and update a strategic plan for community reinvestment programs that support the city's master plans. This is supposed to be done every several years anyway and updated annually. Community reinvestment must respond to the HUD findings, which I believe this has already been accomplished. Pam can comment on that maybe, but with an action plan for remedying the deficiencies that were noted by the auditors. Community Reinvestment Division should be restored to departmental status and be adequately organized and staffed to satisfy the requirements of each program. Now, I'm not going to tell you tonight what you need to restaff it. I think that's the leadership of that department and the Deputy City Manager of Finance and Planning to come forth with that. But I would expect that they're going to ask you for probably at least 3 positions, maybe 3.5, to get it back to where it needs to be. But you got the funding. It comes out of the money you get every year. This is if you want a no-brainer, this one's pretty easy, because if all they got to do is account for the money correctly and split it out, you've got the money to pay for the positions. So this is a fairly easy one to fix without having to hit reserves or dig and take it away from somewhere else. Community reinvestment should ensure that all available funding is utilized to the maximum benefit of the city and its citizens, and I fully believe that will be going on now. The administrative fee component should be retained by the city to support adequate staffing for each of the programs administered. And the entity needs to ensure that any agency, contractor, or CHODO is evaluated and qualified and certified as necessary to remain eligible for the program funding before projects and funding is approved. Finally, community reinvestment should maintain a comprehensive inventory of all city-owned properties, including when, how, and why it was acquired, the initial and subsequent cost, location, zoning, current market value, plats, photographs, and planned usage for the property by the city. If there's no usage planned, then it should be included on the listing of city properties available for sale at its fair market value, consistent with our city code, and actively marketed for its disposal. Disposal will reduce the cost of maintenance, the risk of liability, and convert it from a non-working asset into one that's cash that can be used to support the needs of the city. At this point, if any of you have questions, I'd be happy to entertain those.
Doesn't look like we have any at this time. John? Oh, we have the Mayor Pro Tem.
Okay. Yes, ma'am.
Mr. City Manager, when was it removed from departmental status?
Mayor Pro Tem, during the last in this current budget. This is the first year that it was not a department level position.
You plan to bring it back?
We will certainly, we're going to take this report, the audit that the internal auditor has provided, and we're going to consider every single thing in it. And so when we look at the money, and we're clear that we've got the money there to support director status and support staff, then yes, during the next budget cycle, we would bring it back to you.
And that's the money that's part of the program
Yes,
funding that we receive?
yes.
Okay.
This is not, this is federal money where no city, just for those watching, where no city money is involved. And I want to join the internal auditor. I think I said to someone, the mayor, you, maybe yesterday, that Laura McCool, to find her was just a blessing in the relationship with the HUD officials and the understanding. She's been able to work through some things that many others were not able to do. And so we do commend her on her knowledge, skills, her ability, her relationships that has taken us to a level that we were at many years ago. It's bringing us back. So
It's great.
I think this is the first time somebody new has come in and found $700,000.
yes.
Well, I would like to add one other set of comments in addition to the words for Laura. And Laura brought valuable experience when she came from Albany to Columbus, because she had been doing this for 5, 6, 8 years, and so she knew how to do it. She knew who to do it with. This is not a position that can be filled with just someone off the street that's smart, educated. You need to have that background and that experience. And she came up through the ranks in that city and actually developed those skills to where she knew how to do it. But I also want to commend the 3 technicians that work for Laura in that department. And each of those has a number of years of experience. 2 of the ones that handle the programs primarily, one has about 15 years of experience and one has over 20 years. And if it had not been for their extensive experience, I can assure you that this department would have fallen on its face several years ago. And Laura was also able to take the administrative assistant position that was in the administrative technician and utilize that to assist with some of the program management, because previously that person had supported the deputy city manager as well as the community reinvestment manager in an administrative capacity. So she's used her resources efficiently, and she has reviewed all these recommendations, and she finds them acceptable to her. It's just a matter of getting the necessary approval and moving forward. Any other questions?
Nope, not at this time.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. All right. Let's see here. That concludes the mayor's agenda, except for some meeting minutes, which we're going to postpone until the end of the city attorney's agenda to ensure we have a quorum. We've got a few taking a break at this time. Yeah. Okay. So there we go. All right, so I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes from September 22, October 13, and October 27th, and executive session meetings as well. A motion and a second. Any corrections, additions? Seeing that there's none, all those in favor, please state aye. All right, and we'll move into the city attorney's agenda. Mr. Fay.
All right, thank you. Thank you, Mayor. We have a fairly short business agenda. First item up is the zoning at 1908 Manchester Expressway. It's ready for adoption. Convenience store.
Got a motion and a second for adoption. Is there any discussion? Seeing that there's none, we'll cue this to vote. Please record your votes electronically. All right, it passes.
Thank you. Next item is the budget amendment for
Got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion related to this item? And this is an
For budget
ordinance,
amendment.
as I was beginning to say, an ordinance amending the operating budget for the fiscal year of 2016, beginning July 1 and ending June 30th, 2016. And this is for the attorney's fee, legal fees and expenses related to Sheriff John Darr's lawsuit against the city, councilors, mayor, and administrative staff. Councilor Davis.
Ms. City Attorney, and I'm under the impression this is what the presiding judge is basically mandating us to do, whatever fees that are submitted.
Yes, sir.
Tell this
This
council
is
to approve.
ordered by the court for the period August 16 through October 31, and we're looking at several more months at the very least of litigation, so there will be additional orders to come.
Does the judge review and look at the fees and the cost real closely in this?
Well, that's something we're going to explore at the end of all this litigation, because we're not privy to any of that at this point.
Thank you.
And it is important, because I get questions from citizens all the time, Councilor Davis, that the judge, quote, ordered us to pay not as a penalty of any sort, but because there's a statute that requires a constitutional officer's fees be paid, and there's an issue in the case as to whether they be paid from, and this court has ruled that they be paid from a fund other than the sheriff's fund, and we have reserved that issue for appeal. So that's where we are. All right. There being no further discussion, I will cue it to vote, and please record your votes electronically.
All right. That item's passed. Mayor, next item is a special exception use at 3350 Victory Drive. Is the applicant here, Mr. Tom Williams? All right. That's 2 times we've called this for a hearing with no-show, so we're going to delay this until further notice.
Okay.
Mr. Jones, we will delay that matter.
Just let the applicant know, yeah.
Okay. Item 4, this is a resolution in conjunction with one passed by the Waterworks Board to request that the Army Corps of Engineers establish flow targets for the middle and lower Chattahoochee.
Got a motion and second for approval. This is related to flow targets for the middle and lower Chattahoochee River and relates to the Army Corps of Engineers' ongoing review of how much water volume comes through our river at our point here in Muscogee County. Councilor Thomas.
I was just wanting to know if the city attorney could give us a little more information on this. I don't see the resolution itself. Is that?
Well, hopefully it's in your package, but let me be specific on what. Let me be specific on what we're asking for.
Yeah, please.
Along with the Columbus Water Board, we're asking that the Corps of Engineers honor the flow requirements of 1,350 cubic feet per second daily average and 1,850 cubic feet per second weekly average at Columbus, Georgia, and 2,000 cubic feet per second weekly average at Columbia, Alabama. And these are flow numbers that the Waterworks and the city have requested in litigation and out of litigation involving the use of the Chattahoochee Basin. So,
Do you know if these are, if these targets mean the flow will be greater than it currently is? Or is this about what the flow is now?
this is
I remember the 1,300 figure.
that has been a constant, and I think it's been met. Madam Mayor, you're on that board too, but I think that target has been met over the years, although during the drought years it came perilously close to.
Right, this is
Not being
a
met.
target which we feel we have met and have maintained, and we feel we will maintain, and the Army Corps of Engineers should set down as the requirement as they go through this process. And their recommendations or administrative rulings will be what dictates in all of this litigation, so.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Let's ready for a vote.
Okay, let me cue it. It is ready. Please record your votes electronically. Let's
All
see.
right.
Is that it? Okay, that's good. And it
That has
does.
passed.
Councilor Woodson, did you want to record your vote electronically for the water flow issue?
Sure.
Okay.
I went
Passes.
to get some water for Councilor Thomas.
Mhm.
All right.
Speaking of water, that's all we had listed officially, Mayor. Time permitting, we'd like an executive session to discuss personnel matters, litigation, and real estate acquisition and disposal.
Hold on a second. We've got, our public agenda has been canceled. The gentleman who was set to come called and let us know he could not be here, so we're going to move in to the city manager's agenda, and we've had our fire chief and some of his folks here who have patiently waited, and I think he's going to call them up first, but we'll turn it over to the city manager at this time. Mr. Hughley.
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm going to go ahead and call up Fire EMS Chief Jeff Meyer, talk about the burn building, an update.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Well, the good news is, I've got this right here. Do I know how to make it work right here? Oh, you got the clicker. Okay. All right. First of all, in a nutshell, I'm not here to ask for any more money.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Now, I will say, several months ago, we had a meeting with John Hutchison. He's the project manager for Fire Station 9 and the burn tower site out off Macon Road. Chief Lang, my staff, Moon Meeks, 2WR Architecture, and a whole lot of other folks, and they came to us informing us that the soil conditions at that site were absolutely horrendous, and we were going to need somewhere in excess of $1 million to complete the project. Basically sent them along their merry way and told them to come back with something else, and they did. Luckily, they were able to lower that price by 50% or so. Now, the good thing is, this morning or this evening, we're going to talk a little bit about props, the tower itself, the site work, phase 1, 2, and 3, concrete footings, the control room, and the funding source we found within our current budget. The burn props have already been paid for, $310,703. It includes all the equipment we're going to need in the building to simulate fire conditions. So, as in the past, we used to burn pallets and mattresses and hay. We're actually moving to the 21st century, and we're going to be burning natural gas, and we'll have control of those burns. So, if something unsafe starts to occur, we can stop the training process scenario right then. The burn tower itself is a modular building. That was in excess of $603,000. The building, excuse me, was delivered the week after Thanksgiving. So that is in the county. We do have possession of that. It includes a 5-story tower, 2-story residential and industrial structure, and also a 1-story annex. The site work for the project was estimated at $540,000. This is something we did not anticipate with the project. Some of this has already started, rode out there yesterday, and they have started to clear the site. The concrete footings for the burn tower itself is right at $80,000. So all that will be done by the contractor. It'll be ready with the metal studs coming out of the ground so that the folks will come in and erect the burn tower for us, and that's already paid for. The control room is a separate structure from the building. It'll contain all the controls that operate all the burn props and also the thermal imaging cameras. There'll also be a bathroom and a small storage room. Projected cost right at $215,000. So going back, we were approved $1.3 million for the burn building and burn props in this year's budget. The total cost, which we just received, I believe, last Friday, was $1,800,000, almost $35,000. We looked at our budget over several weeks to identify any funds that were available. Called Deputy City Manager Pam Hodge, and she was gracious enough to meet with us and help us identify some other funding in the budgets as well. So we were able to identify about $165,000 that we have saved in salary savings up until December 1st. So we're looking to hire after the first of the year. We've pushed that out just a little bit to give us some wiggle room on this project. And the $510,000 for the ambulances and the fire trucks. We found out that money is not going to have to be paid until the FY17 budget. So we were extremely fortunate there. So there is money available in our current budget to complete the project. I know John has John, if you want to, you don't have to, has a diagram of the site if you care to see that. Oh, not used to this. Can I point at this? How do you do this? John, you want to speak about this? It looks like Christmas.
Yeah, I tried to be a little festive. You've got the fire station, which is at the lower bottom right, and that work is already being done. You kind of see that bold black line. Everything above that is the new part to accommodate the site work for the burn tower, which is the longer rectangular in the middle, and then the one at the upper top is the control building. Most of the issues from the site come to this site not having any utilities on it. Okay. Oh, this is behind the Winn-Dixie on Macon Road. It's the old
drive-in theater site. For those of us that remember that.
I got you. All right. So a lot of the issues right now, a lot of the issues site-wise has been affiliated with the utilities. There's no utilities back in the area, so a lot of that site work, most of the clearing and grading, obviously very cheap, but to get your sewer, your electrical, your water, that's kind of where the cost increase came from. But most of that line shows you everything that's been done as of this point. Everything south of kind of that purple line there has been done. So it's just the additional.
John, why do you need sewer, electrical, and all of that for a burn building?
The control building, which would run the burn tower, when we looked at it, the burn tower itself, you can't have the controls in the burn tower. So if something were to happen, you wouldn't be able to get to it. So the electrical services have to be back there. And once we added a restroom, the distance from the control building down here to the fire station, if they wanted to have separate crews out there doing work, they'd have to come into the fire station to use the restrooms. So we added a restroom back there, so that's part of the sewer and the water. So, like I said, they've started on the clearing, so that's kind of one of the items that have been approved. We're kind of looking at it, the worst-case scenario, when we were on this southern half before the detention basin here went in, we had lots of issues with water infiltration and just bad soil. So hopefully now this detention basin is technically designed for the whole master plan project, so a lot of that water has not been infiltrating like it has been. So hopefully that site number can come down. We've kind of got a little cushion built in there for any unforeseen soils.
Thank you.
Either Chief or John, do you have a timeline for completion of both the new station and the burn tower and so forth?
The clearing is underway. It's just we're hoping this rainy season of December, January doesn't get us too bogged down. We want to be ready by March. The equipment for the burn tower itself is already here, and now once this is approved, we can go ahead and get the contractor to start proceeding with all the material he needs to order. So all that stuff will kind of be waiting. So as soon as the site is cleared, we can start working on the concrete footings to bring the tower up, and then we can start working on the controls of the control building, and that'll kind of be the last piece. So hopefully March, April will all that area be developed and we'll be working.
And is the new station finished?
Yes, ma'am. Actually,
It's getting there.
some of the exterior work has been done. The interior, they're building on.
Push it up a little bit, John.
That's kind of on the inside. On the apparatus bay, we've got some around the back there. So primarily, we're just waiting on getting the site work done, but the electrical contractors have been there. They're doing their work. They're working on the inside. We're getting the ventilation. We're getting the lighting. Yeah, I've got a couple of those. We've got some interior shots. We're working on the lighting. Flooring was put in last week, so these are about a week old, but we've got the flooring, the finished durable flooring going in, so all that's ongoing. So the building will probably be done by the end of January. It's just kind of getting the whole facility finished.
And it'll house 2 trucks and an ambulance, or?
Right now, it's going to house just engine 9.
9.
It'll house that one unit. However, I was talking with some of the staff today. According to how quick, I guess, we can get Station 11 squared away on Warren Springs Road, we may move some of the trucks where they are now, may move at least one of those over to Station 9 if we have to while Station 11 is being repaired. So, but going forward, when we move in that station, it'll be just one engine. That'll be Engine 9, which is located on Chase Street right now. Now, there is the possibility of moving an ambulance to that station at some point in time in the future.
Okay, thank you.
We've got Councilor Davis.
So tell me again, the site work that you're talking about. This is the way I'm understanding this, is for the burn tower. Is that right?
That's correct. This shaded green oak. Right. The shaded green area is for the burn tower, the training site, because it's not just the tower. It'll be the concrete pad that extends out from the training tower. So we'll be able to have trucks in the area as we're working, whatever scenario, rescue scenario or fire suppression scenario or high angle rope rescue scenario. We're working at the station or at the burn prop.
Well, maybe I'm just not understanding this right, but what I see is that you come here to tell council that you're $540,000 over budget.
Well, what I'm here to tell you, Counselor, is that in our best estimation over a year ago, we thought it would take $1.3 million to complete this project. What we ran into, which we just did not know then, we had some calculations that John may be able to talk to and help me out, but that the soil was not in the condition that we found it to be. I don't know the technical terms for the soil, but it takes a lot of conditioning or new soil to be brought in.
When we first started working, you've got the detention basin here. We were able to take some of that soil. We actually had very bad soils around the fire station. All of that land is swampy. So when we even did our initial geotechnical reports 2 years ago, we knew that material was bad. The intent on the current station now is that we took the material that went into the detention basin and we moved it over here. We were able to do that to save money on this one. But once we get up here, there won't be anywhere to condition the soils we have.
So I'm a
And the
little
site-
lost. Are you telling me that you're using some of that money on the fire station and some other aspects of the site, or
No,
just the
sir.
burn
That's
tower?
we're trying to anticipate the problems on this land that we haven't cleared. We knew once we started to clear this area, if we knew that this area and this dirt was bad, some of the similar conditions we're finding under the reports, the geotechnical reports are showing bad soils are also on the north side.
When were the geotechnical reports done?
Those were, this is 2015. I was doing it in 2013. And then they did initial studies again before we started.
Well, to keep from saying something bad, how do we get to this point? I mean, but I hear you saying that you're going to absorb it in your budget, am I right?
That's correct.
Which leads to another question. I didn't think you had any money in your budget.
Well, we didn't either. As we went through the budget process this year, we included the lease money in the OLOS for the new ambulances and fire trucks. That just came to light 2 or 3 weeks ago, that those monies were not going to need to be expended until the FY17 budget.
We had another, I think there was another at one time, another 1 or 2 fire stations that had a suitable soil issue as well.
We did have Station 2 that I recall. Don't remember anything, a problem about the other ones. Station 2, I think we kind of knew that going in. The reports I had heard at the time, of course, I wasn't chief then, but I was able to work on the project, was that there were going to be problems with the soil. Then it came back, no, it's good. And then it actually came out, we had to do a lot of work at Station 2.
Well, the good thing about all this, call it luck.
If there is a good thing.
The good thing is you're in budget, but, the only way I can equate this, guys, that's almost 30% over budget, and I can only equate that to if it was me, I'd be out of business.
Well,
I couldn't cover that kind of cost. I don't know of a lot of folks that can, but in my mind, I'm just asking, how did we get to that point? And there's a lot of things that most of the time need to be worked out up in front. And I just from our perspective, we're not in a situation budgetary, from a budgetary standpoint, we don't have a lot of room for mistakes.
Council, I agree 100%. I've been here 34 years. I am keenly aware of the budget problem, challenges that we have as the director of the Columbus Department of Fire and Emergency Medical Services for the last 10 years. I can guarantee you can look back at the records, we've done our fair share. We've done a very good job with our budgets. We're doing a whole lot more with less. There are departments that come to our city and are amazed at what we can do with what we have. Some of the challenges we ran into with pricing this project were the necessity to get it done, to be quite frank with you. The burn building that we have now is completely unsafe. And at least the burn building itself and the project, the props came in at budget. It was the construction, the land clearing and all that threw us.
Well, a lot of that stuff you can get pricing for it, so you can be pretty accurate on it. But I'm not saying that your department chief, you ran a really good department, fine department. I'm not implying that there's something wrong from that standpoint. I feel great, very fortunate that you can cover this cost. But it does concern me, whether it's any department, of how on the front end we're approaching these matters, because that's a significant amount for site work.
I wish you'd have been in the room when they brought it to me the first day.
Yeah.
I want to just make sure we comment on that. When the fire department came forward originally with the cost of the burn building, the 1.3, the site work was not something that they included in those projections. So it's not necessarily that the site work is way out of where they thought it would be, because that wasn't something that they included in the cost when they came forward with the cost of the burn building. They were looking at the structure and the amenities to go with that structure, not the site work related to that. And so I think what's
totally-
happening is the cost of the burn building itself is actually coming in under the 1.3. So some of the site work is being covered with the 1.3, and it's requiring additional funding for site work that wasn't part of their original projection when they came forward.
Madam Deputy Director, with all due respect, when this came to us, it was, I believe it was in the form of emergency request that we had to do it. And when you come to us with that kind of request, it needs to be pretty much fine-tuned. And I'm just telling you, you know, the first part of this aspect would have been the site work and the site prep. If you're telling me nobody knew any of that, that's not a good answer.
Well, what I'm telling you is their original projection, when they put those figures together, they were not looking at the site work related to this particular site. So that was not part of their original projections.
Well, I only, look, it sounds like what's happened. We're moving forward, which is good, and it's covered. That's good. But my concern, I'm only using this, Mr. City Manager, as an example in the future. With where we're at, we got to watch these things. We really got to watch them. That's all.
How did this come forward?
This came forward as a request from the fire department.
It wasn't in the mayor's recommended budget. I think it came, right, it was
It's an
not. I
emergency
think
request.
you came straight to council. That's correct.
That's correct.
That's what I thought. I don't believe it was a emergency purchase. I think, was it in the budget process?
No, it was outside the budget process.
But
when
it
you
was later in the
originally came
year,
forward.
perhaps.
That you originally came forward and addressed council because there were some issues, and I believe it was Councilor Henderson that
Yeah, Councilor Henderson wanted it.
had that discussion.
Okay. Let's see, we've got several online. We have Mayor Pro
That's
Tem.
okay.
Is that okay? All right, then I had several drop off. Does anybody else want to speak to it? Okay. All right, anything else, action item, or
Thank
is
you.
this just a report?
It's just a report, update. With that, Madam Mayor, I'm going to go into my regular agenda, and I am going to postpone the RFP and travel schools updates. But we've got the fourth amended and restated agreement for professional hockey.
All right, go ahead, and if you would, just finish reading it. Don't, well, I'll read
Well-
it. Let's see here. The fourth amended and restated agreement for professional hockey in the amount of, does it say? Yeah. The proposed negotiated agreement is a revision in pricing and other few items regarding the scheduling from the previous agreement and an extension of the term of the lease to September 30th, 2020. Hockey's rent will be fixed at $3,000 for each league game and each hockey event. So with that, is there a motion and second, Tiny?
I already made a motion.
There's a motion and a second. All right, any further discussion? All right, we will cue it to vote. And we need some, I think we got to have some folks pushing. And maybe, Mimi, it looks like Councilor Whitsinger, you need to go again. Councilor Thomas's vote didn't register for some reason. Oh, okay, all right.
No, I was pushing the right.
There we go, Okay. Okay. And it passes.
I've got an electronic fee payment agreement with 5 Point Solutions. It's for juvenile court. There's no expense to the city.
Got a motion and a second for approval. Any discussion on this item? Seeing none, we'll cue it to vote. Please record your votes electronically. And it passes Is that everyone being recorded? Yes. Okay, good. We got it. Got it. Yes, sir. We got it.
I've got 24 Dodge Charger pursuit vehicles for police and one Dodge Charger pursuit for the Muscogee County Prison. Total cost of all of those vehicles is $618,943 from Atkin Ford.
Got a motion and second for approval. Any discussion on this purchase item? Seeing that there's none, I will cue it to vote. Please record your votes electronically. It passes.
We've got pharmacy benefit management. It's a one-year contract with Express Script, Inc., and their services include pharmacy network contract and pharmacy claims processing, mail and specialty drug pharmacy, cost containment, clinical safety, and a number of other things. We're asking your approval of this one-year contract.
Got a motion and second for approval. Any discussion on this item? Please record your votes electronically. How can she clear that? All right, we're going to have to note that this item, Madam Clerk, has Councilor Woodson voting in the affirmative, an erroneous vote listed as abstaining. You could what now?
We can stop it and restart it.
Okay, let's do that if you would, please.
Sorry.
Okay, let me switch back to the screen and clear that out. Okay. Let's start the voting again. Did you want, wait, do you want to revote? Yes, I guess we do. All right.
There we go. Thank you.
And it does pass.
That concludes my agenda for tonight, Madam Mayor.
All right, thank you. We'll move on then to our, we've got Councilor Huff.
I'll get with you tomorrow. There's a hole beside one of the telephone poles in my district. It's getting deeper, but I don't know what's causing it. So I'll get you the information and address.
Sure.
Thank you.
Okay. And Councilor Thomas.
Mr. City Manager, when I was looking at the information on the Parks and Rec Department, one of the questions that I had for myself was the status of their budget. And I went back on our agendas, and we have not had a monthly budget report on the agenda this fiscal year. We are now approaching the end of the 6th month of the fiscal year, and we've not had any kind of a report. So I would like to request one at our January meeting with as much, as far into the fiscal year as we can go. I'm not sure why we are no longer doing those monthly reports. But even if we have to not do some of the other reports that we do, I think it's important for us to have those monthly reports. And so I would request that that be done at our January, at our second Tuesday. You know what I'm talking about.
Well,
the first meeting in January, first business meeting in January.
And we will certainly do that. Councilor Thomas, in fact, I think it was last week, Friday, I talked to the Deputy City Manager of Finance about exactly that and whether we would be doing one tonight or not, and she was going to do it in January. So
sometimes it's a little scary that you and I are thinking along the same lines
I mean, it was
at the
actually
same time.
Friday morning that I talked to her about this very thing, that we need a finance update. And
Still low them even if they don't present them.
Right.
yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
but
thank you,
it's
Mr.
coming in January, yes.
Thank you, Mr. City Manager.
Okay. Councilor Davis.
Mr. City Manager, do we still have the work crews, I guess, that go through the court system on the weekends that are going around the city and
We do, and
Keep it clean?
yes, in fact, Deputy City Manager Goodwin, after the Thanksgiving holidays, we had people who had left, obviously, trash out because of miscommunication or lack of communication, and we had them all over the city picking up paper on the rights of way. So,
Could you see if somebody could take a look at the River Road corridor from the Waterworks facility to Mobley Road,
Sure.
and just take a look at that?
Yeah. Sure.
And see if it needs some assistance?
We'll do it.
I'd appreciate that. And I would hope, in addition, I really think we need to circle back and have a discussion on this matter that came before us not long ago at council. We talked about it last week, last council meeting, about the amendments that were done to the UDO dealing with the private, I guess it was, I want to say private stormwater management.
Yeah, detention ponds, yes.
Right. We really need, I'm not hearing good things out in the community this past week. There were some more things that came to my attention through civil engineers and others there's just a lot of concern out there, Mr. City Manager, and I just think that somehow we need to get everybody in a room and really understand what we're doing here.
Well, and we did hear you loud and clear at the last meeting, and we had talked about bringing it back to this meeting, but we decided, as we discussed last week, that we'd meet with developers, builders, homeowners association, and those meetings are being scheduled. And I think that I know that they know, but those listening perhaps don't know, but what we're dealing with is a federal requirement, mandate. It has nothing to do with the city except for enforcing and administering. And so it's a year off, but our staff tried to get communication out early so that they will at least be thinking about it and moving in that direction. And I had a conversation with Michael Burgess after our meeting, a couple of days after our meeting, and so we are moving forward with scheduling meetings and more communication. And so as we do that, just know that we don't have flexibility. It's not our requirement, it's the federal requirement. We're just trying to communicate to make sure that
Right.
builders, developers are putting that into practice. So,
And that, if
so
it's
we'll
a federal,
continue to do it.
if it's a federal mandate, you're right. That's one thing. I would, if you would allow me, I'd like to just make a recommendation. If maybe we could go to the civil engineers, maybe, and get them all in a room, and I'm sure that they can. It will trickle down to everybody else, but that may be a good place to start as well. But I appreciate you following up on that. Thank you.
Yeah, we'll do it.
Okay. Yes, Councilor Huff.
If you would, check on an update for me. I think I requested some time ago about the, what do you call it? I'm losing words right now. My zone, the space in between two communities with the evergreens, buffer zone.
Buffers. Okay.
Yeah, for the Lexington Hills property.
Lexington Hill.
Yeah, that's Antietam.
Okay.
That development should be between that new development and the.
They require buffer
Wexford.
For that.
Yeah,
area?
I didn't see anything going in, but it was a requirement that we
Okay.
put in.
Well, we'll she's got it in the notes, and
All right.
we'll check it.
Thank you.
All right, and with that, Madam Clerk, I think we're ready to go.
Madam Mayor and Council, on the clerk's agenda, we have one item of information. That's a memorandum from GMA regarding the Georgia Cities Weeks, where it will be held in April. They're encouraging all cities to participate. We have two resolutions to excuse Councilors Henderson and Whitson from our last meeting.
Got a motion and second for approval. All those in favor, please state aye.
We have another request for honorary bench at Cooper Creek Tennis Center. They are requesting this in honor of the late Miss Jamie Briggs DeLoach, who was our former city.
I guess it would require a motion to refer to the Board of Honor.
To the Board of Honor, yes.
A motion and second to refer to the Board of Honor. All those in favor, please state aye.
minutes of various boards.
We've got a motion and second that the minutes be received. The minutes of the Board of Health, the Board of Tax Assessors, and the Columbus Iron Works Convention and Trade Center Authority. All those in favor, please state aye.
On our board appointments, Animal Control Advisory Board, the Veterinary Association would like Dr. McDermott to continue. Need a motion for confirmation.
Got a motion and second to approve Dr. Scott McDermott. All those in favor, please state aye.
On our Circle Commission, we still need nominees for these two seats, Mr. John Juan, Mr. Pedro Augusto, and Ms. Mary Rentieri. Those seats were declared vacant. These are council's appointments. Family and Children.
We've got Councilor Thomas.
Mayor Thomason, this has been on our agenda for several meetings, and I know that this particular group is a fairly specific kinds of activities that they do with and so perhaps if there's someone in the community or someone who's watching who might be interested, I would hope that they would contact your office or one of us.
Sure, they certainly can.
It's a very rewarding committee, but it's also fairly specific. So
Yes.
I just want to.
I think these were fairly recently declared vacant. Tiny, am I
That is
dreaming that?
correct.
Yeah, just to, so I'm sure they're working on it. That commission likes to look for diversity, as you said, and of experiences and so forth and input, and hopefully the citizens will see this and be interested. I agree, it's a very worthwhile commission.
Yeah, and I do know these folks that are on here and the terrific job they have done
Yes.
for us. So I would hope that we'll be able to find some good replacements for
Good.
those.
Well, I'll check and see what they're doing.
Thank you, Mayor.
Getting the word out to the community. Thank you. I'm sorry, Madam Clerk, you.
Yes, on our Family and Children Services Boards, we have Ms. Tanya Nelson Huff, who has been nominated to succeed Tamika Luttrell, as well as Ms. Barbara Story Jones to succeed Mr. Samuel Rumor. They can be confirmed.
Got a motion and second for confirmation. All those in favor, please state aye.
On our Personnel Review Board, Mr. Gerald Wyatt, who was an alternate member, cannot succeed himself.
Councilor Huff?
I want to nominate Torrance Goodwin, Gorrance, Goodwin, Goodwin.
Okay.
Thank you.
We will bring this back at our next meeting for confirmation.
Okay.
Recreation Advisory Board, District 2, Dr. Robert Johnson has resigned. Councilor Davis, we'll need you to get us a new nominee for that position. Councilor Woodson, I know you're working for District 7 and District 8. I've spoken with Councilor Buck regarding this district.
All right, Councilor Davis.
Is there, I'm just not sure who to direct this to, but should we be alarmed, or is this just something that comes along every once in a while? We have 3 resignations on the Recreational Advisory Board. I can understand Mr. Stanfield. I know what happened there, but is there
Yeah, I think somebody asked last week.
there
What was
anything
that?
going on
I don't
that we
think
don't
so.
know about?
What was it, Madam Clerk?
I know Ms. Bell has relocated to Atlanta with her new employer, Ms. Collins. I know she had an issue. She's taking care of an elderly mother, so therefore she could not continue in that capacity.
So it wasn't related to anything about the board?
No.
Thank you,
Not at
Mayor.
all.
Okay.
And on our Taxi Cab Commission, we are still working very hard to get a replacement for Mr. Billy Kraft's seat. Also on the Tree Board, Mr. William Consoletti, he is eligible. We've reached out, had not heard whether or not he wants to continue. We will continue to try to reach him. Mr. Chris Coakley and Mr. Steve Smith, they are not eligible. We'll need a new nominee for these 2 seats. And we are still waiting to hear back from the Uptown Facade Board. To hear back from Uptown Columbus with respect to Mr. Green's seat. And that's all I have, Madam Mayor.
All right. There has been an executive session requested on personnel as well as on litigation. Oh, okay, and real estate. We've got a motion and second that we go into executive session. All those in favor, please state aye. Great. Please clear the chambers. Thank you.
We back on?
Says on. All right, we are back out of executive session on a matter of personnel, litigation, and land acquisition or transfer, and no votes were taken. Mr. Fay, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor. One add-on resolution to settle the damage claim of Samuel Henderson for $90,000. It's ready for action.
Move approval.
We've got a motion and second for approval. Is there any discussion on this item? Hearing none, all those in favor, please state aye. Aye. Are there any opposed? All right.
Passes.
Motion and second, we adjourn. All those in favor, please state aye. Aye. All right. Merry Christmas, everyone. We are adjourned. It is 8:47, and we are adjourned.